ladies and gentlemen, I give to you subluxation of the long bicep head tendon.
Well,
did the cortisone help at all?
It really did. It helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stuff?
Just inflammation. Like, it was pretty much constantly in pain, which sounds worse. Like, in other words, if I paid attention to it, it was always sore, and now it's not.
Yeah.
You have to get
on a scale of 1 to 10, Tom, where was your pain at?
3.
Okay, here's my issue with the 1 to 10 pain scale, if I may go off on a rant for 4 minutes here.
Sure.
Okay, so it's from 0 to 5, it's still like slightly smiley faced. Like a 1 is still a smile, 2 is like a less enthusiastic. Then at 5, it's like a medium face.
Yeah.
I've never felt half of the worst pain that I've ever felt and been like, you know what? This is unpleasant. Like,
Right. Yeah.
At like a 3, I'm crying and I want to go home.
My temptation when you said on a scale of 1 to 10 was just to make the face. Like,
see, that's closer to a 5.
Also, what if you're just not, you got resting, bitch face, like
resting pain face.
I feel like
you're like, that's the emoji that best describes me.
That's what they're going to shift to. Yeah.
You got to calibrate that scale.
There should be 10 looping GIFs of pain qualification. They shouldn't have static images of smiley faces. It should be 10 GIFs that represent various kinds.
I'm not joking, Scott. You could sell that to a hospital right now.
I think we could.
Yeah. We should get on that.
Podcasting. Wrong business. Let's do this.
Well, we could put it in the store.
Yeah. There you go. Sell like hotcakes.
Hey, I mean, we're getting well, it's not a medical. I was like, we can expand our topics to include emoji scales. Medical. We don't have a medical story today. We have a lab-grown meat story, though.
I could write a think piece about how the pain scale needs to be brought up to date with modern internet communication, and then we can talk about it when everybody reacts to it.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Chapstick.
Ethan Kane says there's a narrative version that is very useful, which I assume means if he says the F word 6 times, it's this painful.
Did you see this latest Axios post from Ina Fried?
Oh, Ina. What's Ina up to? What's she saying? I don't know if I saw it.
Hold on, let me open it.
Intel made a thing. Damn it, stop breaking news right before the show.
Beep, 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 beep.
Intel says the processor bug isn't unique to its chips and performance issues are workload dependent. Well, okay, I kind of knew that. They're just confirming.
This looks like a more organized post rather than new information.
Well, it is notable. ARM also released some kernel changes related to the bug. So, it may be a wider issue. Although it's very interesting that AMD was, hey, you guys, we're good.
We never had very good performance.
Yeah.
Anyway,
historically. My little AMD fanboy heart bleeds every time.
Sorry. I was a big AMD fan too. I got rid of my AMD.
I like Ryzen is really solid.
Ryzen is great.
Yeah. There was a day I was in a serious rebellious mood, and when I'd build PCs, I was going all AMD because I wanted to stick it to the man.
All right. So Rich, I put the Intel statement in the doc, and I'm gonna send it to you in Slack too, if you.
Okay.
If there's anything worth mentioning in there.
Do I have the 2018 Daily Tech News Show?
You probably don't.
I was just looking for the doc.
I wasn't the only one today.
Yeah, that's gonna happen for the first couple of weeks. Sorry about that.
No worries.
No worries.
Okay. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
I am.
Let's do this.
Here we go.
A Nicholas Show keeps you in the know. If you'd like to find out more, please go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support and find out how to keep us on the air. Thank you.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, January 3rd, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
From way over here, I'm Scott Johnson.
Also joining us from the great land of Ohio is Mr. Rich Stroffolino, sometime host of Daily Tech Headlines, and also from Gestalt IT. How's it going, Rich?
Fantastic.
Thank you for joining us, man. Rich is going to help us understand a little bit about the Intel CPU vulnerability. Also, our producer, Roger Chang, is here as well.
It's okay.
What's okay?
To be sort of an afterthought.
That was not meant to be an afterthought. That was me transitioning from explaining why Rich was here to what I always do right before these top stories, which is introduce Roger.
I'm sorry, Roger.
Roger's like, it's okay.
Yeah, all right.
Doesn't matter. I'm fine. Well, fine. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
As Tom mentioned, Intel CPUs have a vulnerability that lets an attacker access low-level kernel memory, which is normally protected from app and user access. The bug requires OS-level kernel patches on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, and will cause CPUs to perform more slowly. We are going to go much more into depth into this a little bit later in the show because it's a complicated topic.
BlackBerry and Baidu signed an agreement of intent to make BlackBerry's QNX operating system, regardless of what chip it may run on, the basis for Baidu's upcoming Apollo autonomous driving platform. Baidu plans to integrate a number of its own software products into BlackBerry's QNX car infotainment platform, including CarLife, which pairs connected cars with smartphones, Baidu's Duer OS voice interaction system, and high-definition maps, finally.
Man, Baidu and Alibaba just making partnerships all around the world. Mm-hmm. Microsoft announced it's buying file storage vendor Avere Systems, that's A-V-E-R-E, which develops file system and caching technologies for the media and entertainment industry. Avere's clients include Sony Pictures, ImageWorks, the Library of Congress, Johns Hopkins University, and Teradyne. Now, let's get into some more top stories. Kick us off, Scott.
Well, as the art and editing nerd present at the table today, I really wanted to talk about this story. iFixit, as it often does, has done a teardown of a brand new product. In this case, the new base model iMac Pro. That is to say, the one that is like $49.99.
The cheapest one.
The cheapest one. I spec'd that thing out to almost 22 grand if you really wanted one like that. And of course, left the page as quickly as I could. Anyway, highlights include a large dual side-by-side fan cooler of CPU and GPU with no room for desktop-size hard drives in the chassis. So that's important to note. It uses standard 288-pin DDR4 ECC RAM in 4. The display is the same 5K display found in the 2017 5K iMac. We already knew that. The CPU is an Intel Xeon W2140B in what appears to be a standard LGS 2066 socket, meaning upgrades might be possible in the future. That's not necessarily hardwired. The GPU is a Radeon Pro Vega 556 that's soldered into place. So that thing ain't moving. Drives are two PCIe-based NVMe 512 gigabyte SSDs. The bigger you go with some of the options, obviously the bigger those get and the more room they take. But anyway, the machine also features two Thunderbolt 3 controllers, a T2 custom chip handling touch bar, FaceTime camera, audio, and etc. iFixit gives the iMac Pro a 3 for repairability. That's out of 10.
That's out of 10.
Yeah, and that bears mentioning because as someone who is very interested in this kind of hardware for production and art and other things, video editing, this is a monster of a machine. It's really, really nice. There's no denying the actual specs are pretty stellar, but the big fear everybody had that this pro-level device would have limited upgradability is coming to bear here. So yeah, 3 out of 10. Not happy to hear it.
I mean, 3 for Apple's not bad, to be honest.
Yeah, it's actually higher than usual, yeah.
And also consider that with Thunderbolt 3, Apple, and with High Sierra, Apple also introduced being able to have external GPUs. So while not useful for gaming, that's basically a PCI 4 lanes of PCI Express. So, you could hook up a graphics card for rendering, that kind of stuff too. Not the most elegant solution, but if you're already spending 5 to 20 grand on a all-in-one, might not be a bad solution down the road.
Well, and for anybody who's used to Apple not being super friendly with people wanting to upgrade their own systems themselves, they did bury that note about new Mac Pros coming, and they're going to be, at least, on some level, people will be able to customize them a little bit. Bit of a throwaway line. We don't really know a lot of information about that, but for anybody who's going to plunk down a bunch of money for a new iMac Pro, it's might indicate that Apple's willing to at least play along in the future.
If rumors are to be believed, I'm using a Mac Pro cylinder style trash can looking one right now from 2013, and I love it. It's been great. Has never let me down. It's been wonderful. And you can expect those to be relatively not as expensive as, say, this all-in-one solution. But it does beg the question, if they have a whole new line of these coming out, and the rumors are that they're not the same form factor, that they are a more upgradable tower style design, akin to the more previous models of this device. If that's true, it's hard for me to figure out who are they aiming that for versus who are they aiming the iMac Pro for. They're clearly aiming it for professional high-end users, but I don't know why. I don't know which one is for. In other words, this feels like a scatter shot to a market that they maybe they don't know who wants which of these. So I'm very curious to see what the new Mac Pros are and to see how that susses out, at least in the professional market. So maybe a year or two down the road, we're back to looking at one solution and not these two weird, diverse options. I don't know.
Side note, I ran a frequency counter when you on what you read, Scott, and you only missed J and Q. In the letters.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of specs there, so 7 out of 10.
Not bad.
All right, moving on. Roku announced a new licensing program for voice-enabled smart speakers. Yes, Roku is getting into this too. Smart soundbars, surround sound, and multi-home audio systems that use new Roku Connect software. The company will build the voice assistant, but will leave the Roku Entertainment Assistant hardware to OEMs such as TCL, which already announced it will unveil its debut Roku Connect powered device at CES next week, January 8th.
This is a very interesting gambit. So a lot of people are trying to get into the voice assistant now that the Amazon Echo has shown it's viable. I think Google Home is very successful as well. Of course, Apple has its HomePod coming out. This is an interesting take where Roku says, we don't want to be the one speaker for everything. We think the problem is that people really don't understand who they're supposed to say to what and how to set all this stuff up. So we're just going to focus on entertainment. And if you have us in your smart speaker and you have a Roku powered television or a Roku itself, you're going to be able to just say, watch Netflix, and, you know, hey Roku, watch Netflix, and that'll happen. Whether that's enough of an advantage for people to buy into that, or whether people will say, yeah, but that won't turn on my lights and that won't handle my garage door, I think it's too early to say, but it's an interesting take rather than trying to go butt heads with Amazon and Google, et cetera.
It's also, it's a big question. I don't know who has the data for this. Maybe nobody has the data for this, but I'd love to know how many people are using their Echoes and their Google Home specifically for entertainment, because I'm in that category and I'd love to have more things turning off and on and timed and lights and all this other stuff, but I haven't had time to really go for it. Kind of still waiting to see how it susses out in terms of who ends up being the best of the 3 and 4 or however many are coming out. And so this may be a really smart thing to do, because they maybe know that a large percentage of those people are just like, yeah, I just need a way to play my music real quick, or integrate to my TV real fast and just say, quick, play me some best of REM tracks or whatever. Because this is a complete guess, but I'll bet they're like me. I bet there's tons of people who use these devices primarily for that.
Well, and Roku is known as, if you want to, put it against the Apple TV, it's cheaper. At least at one point, it had apps that Apple TV didn't support yet, and Roku faithful, or it's great little ecosystem there. My first reaction was like, wow, they just kind of want to stick with entertainment and not actually go up against any other smart AI systems. Even though the whole thing is going to be Hey Roku, which is like Hey Google, but whatever. But I thought, that's a little bit limited. But at the same time, it's sort of like, it sounds like Roku is like, at the Echo, Google Home, we can't really compete with them on price or undercut them too much. So why not just give people one more reason to enjoy the Roku system as it exists already? Mm-hmm. If you have a smart speaker of some kind, then now, as long as it's an OEM that's working with Roku, you can do stuff with the speaker that you already have that does other stuff. And we don't have to try to capture that entire market.
Yeah. Also, they're not charging the manufacturers to do this. They plan to make their money on getting people into the Roku system and selling ads through the Roku system like they do on Roku, on the Roku interface right now. So that means more speaker systems and home entertainment systems might be willing to do this because it's not going to cost them.
Yeah.
Nissan will demonstrate its brain-to-vehicle, or B2V technology, new acronym for you, at CES next week. You just wear a skull cap while you drive, measures your brainwave activity, and then that can be used by the steering, acceleration, and braking systems to respond before you initiate action. The wheel or the brake pedals will start moving 0.2 to 0.5 seconds sooner as a result. Fast enough that you probably won't notice, they say, but it will make the car feel snappier. Nissan said the system could also be used to detect preferences and discomfort, so maybe lowering music volume or adjusting temperature automatically. Nissan said the tech should be available in cars in 5 to 10 years. Similar monitors are being used by Australia's BHP Billiton Mining Company to check truck drivers for fatigue.
Cool. You just wear a skull cap and
that's all. Yeah.
And that driver looks so comfortable.
Like anybody had an EKG? Like those are so much fun. It's great to have your brainwaves monitored.
Right. That driver is sitting there just
so terrified.
I don't want to move too much this way. It's going to pop a wire out.
I mean, the fatigue will set in of wearing the skull cap, I have a feeling, before the fatigue of driving, but they'll know if you take it off, so you got to leave it on.
Is there any thing in here about why this has any benefit over an autonomous vehicle with a computer that...
Well, this will be for their autonomous vehicles. The idea is that if you want to take over in certain situations, it will be able to...
It makes the fail-safe option more precise.
It'll work better. No. And those things like, you know, heating and cooling and stuff would also be applicable to an autonomous car.
I hope they call it the Doc Brown. Because that thing,
I know that the brain is a mysterious creature. I just how would it for sure know that I'm cold?
Shivering.
Is it what if I'm having a weird day and I'm just thinking weird stuff?
I don't know what the vocabulary.
I'm not sure I want my brain to be controlling anything.
Well, but we'll all want to wear these stylish driving skull caps.
That we can agree on. Let's talk about clean meat, because I think meat should be clean. Clean meat companies are becoming a thing. Super Meat is an Israeli company that has the best company name of all time and just raised $3 million for lab-made chicken. Bill Gates Bill Gates backs one called Atomico. We've heard about that one before. There's also Memphis Meats and Hampton Creek. All of these companies take an approach to growing annual cells in the lab rather than getting it from actual animals. And they all need to solve the problem of scale, of course. Plus, it has to taste good. Super Meat says about 3 years away from selling its products in supermarkets. You'll be able to walk down to Smith's and pick one up. Well, that might just be here. Anyway, wherever you go, Safeway. And
Ralph's.
Those initial products will be processed foods, not whole synthetic chicken breasts.
So nugs.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be a chicken. It's not going to even be chicken shaped. I want people to be prepared for that. Because it's not going to, I mean, I guess they could mold and do whatever. McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's has been preparing people for that for a couple decades now. So
if you've had a McRib, then you have had a shape of meat.
You've had some super meat.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Every time artificial meat comes up, Tom, sign me up. I'm ready.
Well, and it's making its way, I would say out of the lab, but from just being a research project to being a startup. The idea. I mean, people are getting funding for this. So somebody thinks there's a chance this is going to work. 3 years seems optimistic to me. I mean, these scale problems that they're having are not minimal. Also, taste. It's really, really got to taste right. I mean, I guess in a chicken nugget, maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's the whole idea. And so, yeah, my guess would be this will be a processed food replacement for the foreseeable future if it comes to market.
Yeah. Artificial meat is going to come up again, and I mean that literally.
I mean, a couple of years ago, I remember everyone talking about the artificial burger and, would it taste the same? And at least in a few restaurants here in LA, you can get one. And people say it's not exactly the same, but it's not bad. So I don't know. I would eat
I'll try it.
Fake chicken processed foods as long as it didn't taste bad.
But it's not fake. It's real meat, just not from a live chicken.
Not from, yes, exactly. I mean, if all the meat alternatives I've tried over the years, most of which is pretty terrible. It's like, this sounds promising. Just make it taste better. Be happy. All right, Spotify news time. Spotify confidentially filed IPO documents with the SEC at the end of December, and sources tell Axios, and as of a couple of hours ago, Bloomberg as well, it may list itself as early as Q1 of this year. The company is also being sued, though, for $1.6 billion by Wixon Music Publishing, which claims Spotify doesn't have proper mechanical licenses. A new U.S. House bill, which is under consideration, called the Music Monetization Act, would simplify licensing by putting all songs in a big public database and then give companies blanket mechanical song licenses tied to market worth. Makes it way easier, cuts down on lawsuits like this. So long as a lawsuit is not already in place, which it is. So this lawsuit from Wixon against Spotify was obviously timed appropriately.
Yeah, $1.6 billion would be a hard pill for Spotify to swallow too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's a lot of question about why Spotify has wanted to go the direct route, getting on the New York Stock Exchange, which is not unheard of, but is at least historically known by a lot of companies to skirt some fees associated with doing a roadshow and collecting money from various financial institutions. So it's on the surface like, oh, okay, kind of an easier way to go. But if Spotify's worried about getting hit with a lot of other types of fines, it may make more sense.
Well, my guess is what Wixon is doing here is saying, crap, if this Music Modernization Act passes, and it looks like it will, we are going to get a trickle because everything is so complex out there. Our competitive advantage is the confusion that we can claim we deserve payments that it's arguable maybe we don't. So we need to get Spotify to agree to pay us for the foreseeable future before this becomes law. And hitting him over the head with a $1.6 billion threat is a way to get him to the table. They don't win by getting Spotify driven out of business, right? They win by getting Spotify to agree to something. That's my guess is what'll happen.
I like that the cited examples are Tom Petty and folks like that. It's just a reminder that archive music, meaning back catalog, is huge in this business. It's not about top 40. It's not about what's fresh. Sometimes it's about what's old. And if you're Neil Young or you're Tom Petty, music is being used without proper licensing, look out because you might spend more money than you want to there, Spotify.
All right, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. It's on the Amazon Echo, Anchor, and Google Home. Now, the vulnerability on the Intel chip is between the processor and the operating system. It's the way it handles memory. It could, we don't know that much about how it actually works, but it could allow malicious programs to see data usually only reserved for the kernel. The kernel is the part of the operating system that runs everything, and it needs to know everything. So you have to secure the kernel above all else. This is a huge vulnerability. If you can see everything the kernel sees, then you see almost everything on the computer. How it works has not been detailed publicly, so we don't know how easy it is to take advantage of. But Peter Bright has an excellent write-up on Ars Technica about why this is a problem, and I'm going to try to walk you through it as simply as possible. Each byte of information has a memory address. Physical memory addresses are on your hardware, and they aren't necessarily continuous. You put something here and then you delete something and then the rest of it's over there. Well, they're not going to be in order, and that's not efficient. So virtual memory keeps the addresses tidy and efficient for programs so they don't have to be looking all over the place for them. They all look like they're right next to each other. That makes it easy for the program to run through the data. Now, a nice side effect of that is that each program gets their own virtual memory map, meaning they can't look at another program's memory. You get your own map. And if you look at an address on that, it's just your information. The other program has its own map, and you don't know what that map is. There's something called a page table that translates the virtual addresses to the real physical addresses. So that's how you're able to tell the processor where that memory really is, where that physical address on the hardware is. The OS and the processors both refer to the page table to find bytes in memory. So when the program tells the OS, hey, I need this bit of memory, it's at virtual address this, the OS looks at the page table and goes, oh, that's actually physical address this, and it tells the processor, hand me that bit of memory. Now, the processor keeps something called a translation look-aside buffer, but don't worry about that. Just call it the TLB. The TLB stores some of these maps so that the full page table doesn't have to be pulled up every time. I mean, think about all the programs and all the data on your computer. You don't want to have to pull that full page table up and look at it every time. That's a big old thick phone book. So you just have a little one that you can grab and say, okay, I know it's this program, so I'm just going to pull this part. That's called the TLB. The TLB splits its virtual addresses in two. One half for the program and one half for the kernel. And that's because you always need the kernel. Kernel's there every time. Kernel's the OS that's going to be like, I need to help you out with this because I run everything. So only half the TLB has to be refreshed. You could think about it like the big phone book is the page table, and the TLB has two slim volumes. One is the kernel addresses, and one is whatever program you're using. So you just pull out one slim volume, grab the one for the new program, and pop it in there. All right? Now, to stop programs from snooping on the kernel side of the TLB, the processor can be in user or supervisor mode. So if a program tries to be malicious and says, hey, I'm the kernel, give me something at this address, it'll say, no, you're in user mode. You don't get to request that piece of memory. A user process can't access supervisor memory even if it tries. Now, to speed things up even more, processors do something called speculative execution. And this is where we think the problem is. In speculative execution, the processor comes up with a memory address to write to before it checks if anything's there, while it's executing the function. Now, if it guesses an empty space, that saves time because it doesn't have to wait until it finishes processing to look and see if there's a place to write the memory to. Intel, in its implementation of this, doesn't stop user code from trying any address. Some of those addresses could end up being supervisor addresses. It blocks it from using a supervisor address. It doesn't let the program read the data at the supervisor address, but when it happens, some supervisor data is loaded into cache and into the TLB, and this is the best guess at the source of the vulnerability. So you've got those phone books going on, and you've got this guy who's like trying to guess where to put the information, and in doing that, he pulls like an index card, and maybe there's a chance for the program to see what's on that index card at some time. Anyway, the solution has been to pull all the kernel data out of the TLB altogether. So that slim volume, it's not in the TLB. It's in something called the kernel page table isolation, or KPTI. That slows things down because the whole point of putting the kernel data in the TLB was that you didn't have to refresh it all the time, and now you do. All right? So I don't know if that made sense to anybody, but that's my best chance of explaining what's going on here. And if you want more detail about that, I highly recommend going to Ars Technica and reading Peter Bright's description of it. But the upshot is you were trying to make it easy for the memory to be accessed fast, and in the process, some of it got a little fast and loose, and maybe got a little too loose, and so now you have to just pull all that memory out and make it harder to get to, which slows everything down. Now, Rich, this is causing people loads of headaches.
Yeah, this is causing major issues. And a part of it is because Intel really hasn't come out and made a formal statement. Right now, a lot of this has come to light looking through Linux source code and recent kernel updates. We've seen AMD come out with a pretty, backhanded press release saying, we're not seeing any of this speculative, execution problems on our end. So a lot of it is guessing, and that makes it even more scary. But on the face of it, the fact that you could gain access to kernel memory is huge, and the real issue here is there's no easy fix. It seems like no easy fix for this for Intel. When you fix these patches that are going to be coming out, Microsoft's working on one, which, by the way, they've been working on that since November. We've had Windows Insider updates coming out since November with tests of this fix. So this has been around for a while. There's some speculation that people had proof of concepts, or at least working on proof of concepts as early as July. So people have known about this for quite some time. And we're seeing now performance impacts of 5 to 30. I've seen claims of up to 50%, although that seems to be more like in a benchmark situation, not necessarily in a real world situation. And the issue is there's really no way for Intel to get around this. It's very interesting. Speaking of AMD, they had a very similar issue a few years ago. They had a TLB bug in their initial Phenom release, and the only way they had to issue a similar patch, had a similar big impact on performance, really killed that initial launch. And the only way they had to change it was to release a new stepping, aka print, like make new chips, was the way they fixed it. And unfortunately, it seems like fundamentally, to fix this error, obviously rewriting some kernel code can work around it, but to get around it without performance impact, it seems like right now the only way to do that is Intel needs to make new chips. This potentially could have huge problems across. I've seen a lot of focus of it in my coverage of it in the enterprise. If you're seeing a 20% decrease in CPUs on public cloud, you could see this. Basically, anyone that is running virtualization absolutely needs to implement these patches right away. Maybe high performance computing, I've seen speculation, may not implement this just because they might be working on more academic work, so that might not be impacted. But virtually all other large deployments, anything with virtualized or even containerized applications, I think definitely needs to roll this out right away. So.
Is there an argument to be made for chip architecture to start including firmware type systems? Meaning, patching OSs is one thing, but it feels like a weird workaround that's going to be hard to make sure the vulnerabilities covered across the board as possible. It'd be great if these chips contain just maybe a little bit more memory capacity or something where a firmware type thing could be flashed and upgraded on these chips.
I mean, that's getting more into like ASIC territory and that kind of stuff. I mean, sure, if you want to dust off your old Transmeta PC and they can roll out a firmware update for that. Wow,
Transmeta.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're always on the top of my mind. I love them so much. Anyway, code morph it all day, every day. But I mean, I haven't seen a lot of call for that. That seems more on the computer science end of it. I think, when Intel's, just trying to get their Coffee Lake CPUs out, this is the last thing I'm sure that they wanted to be dealing with.
And while it's not good, it's a problem that, like you said, AMD didn't address this. And so that was one of the reasons they were having to do other things to get their performance near to Intel's. So there are other things Intel can do to mitigate this. It'll be interesting to see how they approach it. My guess is we aren't going to see 30 to 50% performance decreases across the board. It all depends on what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and I also think that down the road, people are rushing to get these patches out because this is a huge security liability, right? You don't want to be the last guy to patch this, and all of a sudden there's this huge exploit that nobody knew about. There may be some room down the line to, massage updates to the kernel to maybe, to have less of a performance impact. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, organizations bought, thousands and thousands, millions of these Intel CPUs, expecting, a given performance per core or per, clock cycle or what have you. And all of a sudden overnight, just so that they are, aren't exposed to a security vulnerability, are going to see significantly reduced performance. And it's even worse on older Intel processors from all reports. So, you could have organizations that are in danger of not being able to meet service level agreements, which, could lead to lawsuits on their end. I mean, there's going to be no end of lawsuits from a variety of Intel partners, I'm sure. And again, it's not like Apple, reducing the price of a battery replacement. I mean, Intel can't replace everyone's CPU. It's also, I think, kind of notable that this is the second year in a row now we've seen a major Intel bug coming out. Last year, we had the Intel Atom CPUs that were bricking all sorts of devices. There was a big problem for Cisco, I know. And it's also really important to note, x86, this isn't just a Windows thing, this isn't just a Linux thing. Mac OS is vulnerable to this. BSD, pretty much anything that's running x86 is vulnerable to this as well. Although I did see some speculation that Mac OS might already be patched for this.
All right. Well, thank you, Rich. We'll keep an eye on it for you and let folks know. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/dailytechnewsshow.
Time for the thing of the day. Let's check in with the amateur traveler with some important updates on those suitcases that have built-in batteries.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. On this segment, we've talked about some suitcases that have built-in batteries, like the Away suitcase. That means that when you're in the airport, you'll always have power with you, at least until that battery depletes, and so you can recharge your iPhones and things like that. What we haven't talked about is some new changes regarding those suitcases put in place by some of the airlines. Starting with American Airlines, they have decided that you cannot check a bag with a battery in it. That is, with these built-in batteries. And so if you have a bag that doesn't have a removable battery, you cannot check that bag, period. They will not allow you to check that bag. And so be aware that if you're going to buy one of these smart luggage pieces, get one with a removable battery. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Yeah, you can carry it on, is my understanding. You just can't check it.
I mean, depending on how big it is, it's like you should really know. You should know what you're up against there. Thanks to both Scott Johnson and Rich Stroffolino for being on the show. Rich, you're not normally with us on Wednesdays, but it was great to have you. Tell folks where they can keep up with the rest of your work.
Sure thing. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Anthropology, or check out my writing at gestaltit.com. We have a really great podcast we do, the On-Premise IT Roundtable. We just released one on Tuesday about intent-based networking, which is really cool. And also check out our interview series, IT Origins. I just interviewed Allison Sheridan. You may know her. So that's coming up. It'll actually be out tomorrow. So check that out. It's an hour-long conversation, and it goes all over the place. It's really cool. It was really fun.
Excellent. Scott Johnson, Mr. Frog Pants himself. Besides staying warm, what do you got going on?
Well, I am trying to stay warm. It's very cold here right now. But I'm going to recommend, if you want to stay warm online with me, that's all getting a little weird. I'll just say this. Check out frogpants.com, of course. But I don't often promote this, but lately I've been putting some cool time-lapse video of some art stuff I've been creating, all of it leading to a new Art Tech episode of DTNS Labs. So if you want to see that stuff and sort of sharing what I'm working on, you can check that out on my YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Scott Johnson.
All right, folks, we're supported by you. Lots of cool people talking to each other on patreon.com/DTNS. Thanks to everybody who supports us there. And because you're supporting us, we can do new things. So we're not just doing episodes of DTNS from CES. We'll also be live streaming from CES Unveiled, Showstoppers, and Digital Experience. You can catch us on Facebook Live and streaming at facebook.com/groups/Daily Tech News Show, or facebook.com/Daily Tech News Show as well.
Yeah, we're going to try a bunch of new stuff. And of course, we want your feedback. Speaking of feedback, you know that you can give us a nice email or a rude email, whatever. As long as you want to talk to us, that's cool. Feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Rude emails, maybe not so much. But we are live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com.
This is the page table, this heavy dictionary, and these are the TLB. Maybe that makes it more such. We'll talk to you with Justin Robert Young tomorrow, okay?
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Tom, did your prop master just hand those to you as the show was going?
Oh, Rich, you have no idea. Everything is just within,
I
just
guarantee
within
if I mention an original Surface RT, it just magically appears, I'm sure.
If I was like, hey, do you have a 8-track? Tom would be like, I think I do.
I was shocked a Transmeta tablet didn't appear. By the way, I'm not joking. I love, if you want to at me, Twitter, I'll talk Transmeta all day.
I remember one of my first jobs, we had profiled the company who made, it's a name I hadn't thought of in a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Transmeta, he's me.
Grab it. If I said something about a VHS tape, I'll bet Tom would have one right there.
Oh, see, Scott, don't poke the beast.
Let's challenge him.
I'm just really sad that my Windows RT tablet is not anywhere to be seen. It is somewhere here.
The pre and particularly post show.
Did someone say Liberty?
Dude, this stuff is I start dreaming about this later. maybe not the Liberty Bell, but like the other night I had a dream that I had found my first cassette recorder, and I woke up like, dang it. I don't actually have that. And I have these cassettes in a box that I can't play.
Yeah.
It's all because of this.
Well, if someone wants a can of the original Coca-Cola before it was called Coke Classic, I've got one of those.
I mean, the bottles.
I love it.
When was it?
The original Coke
Classic. It had been around quite a while by then.
Yeah. Or I don't know, a Fargo snow globe.
Oh, shut up. Where did you get that?
Why is it so yellow?
Charging iPhone.
That is pretty disgusting water at this point.
So cool.
Fargo needs to,
in their air.
they got that.
Here's the thing about it is I just have a lot of randomly weird stuff around me. And so when I hear something that relates to it, I pull it out. If you try to go on demand, it just like ruins the illusion because it's like, man, I don't have a cassette. My Windows RT tab.
There's no judgment here, Tom. It's a safe space.
We're all friends here.
Well, this friend wants to know titles.
Yes, friend.
Get out of brain. Oh, it should be get out of my brain and into my car. The kernel addresses the TLB.
B to the V. Super meat.
Scott wants clean meat. Love Suitify. Let the chips flaw where they may. What's wrong with Intel's chips? Refresh my memory.
Did you say let the chips flaw where they may?
Yeah.
That's really good.
Kernels of truth behind Intel design flaw. Everything tastes like chicken except lab chicken. Intel has a cash flow problem. Nugs. Got to grow some nugs.
The cash flow problem doesn't make as much sense, but I kind of love it.
It's not a cash flow problem.
I know, yeah, but I just love that.
Well, I mean, the bigger issue is that the entire crux of the issue is that for so long, so many of these engineers were focused exclusively on performance.
TikTok.
And security was given a backseat.
Well, and then the other thing is that there's also no competition. So it's literally everybody is running, Intel Xeons and everything like that. So the spread of it is so much greater.
Single point of failure.
Exactly.
All right. So are we going with let the chips flaw where they may?
I love that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right.
I wish I had used that one.
I liked the Billy Ocean reference because I
get
just,
out of my brain and into my car.
So it's always good. But no, the Flaw one is.
William Ocean.
And how did Billy Ocean sing a song called "Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car"?
And
we were all like
this.
One of the strangest songs.
To me.
Get out of my dreams.
Exactly, and it's beloved. But
It's
like,
great.
what, Billy? What are you talking about?
Well, you see, he was dreaming about someone, and then he wanted to take them for a
daydreaming.
ride in his automobile.
Yeah.
So
No, I get it.
So no,
It's
Sarah,
just
I
a
think I need to explain
weird,
this. Okay.
chorus.
He's fantasizing.
No, but see what was happening.
So you're just not getting it.
Yeah, you don't get it.
He had a
I
car,
really liked her.
and she needed a ride.
Everything's a metaphor. He's
Yeah,
actually
it was
at
about
home.
the Cold War. Get
Does
it?
he even have a license? Like, is he a good driver? There's just like a lot of variables.
Oh,
This is before Lyft.
The
this guy's
car was
12. What would you know
the car
about
was
driving?
capitalism. The car was capitalism.
This is
The
a love
dream
story
was
about a
1980s
driver
America.
who saw somebody on the street and is like, I hope you use the app and I hope I'm nearby.
Just get in my car. Quit jogging away from me, screaming.
Yeah, just get in my car. Don't worry about it. Yeah, no, the door is just locked from the inside. It's cool.
Public opinion won't be against this for another 20 years.
I really wish I had the Billy Ocean album right now.
Oh,
I love Billy Ocean.
That'd be
I
just
love
a
Billy
walk
Ocean
away
is a
moment.
national treasure.
Was, you know,
The
when
thing is,
going
I
gets
probably
tough-
have the 45.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get to it.
reach that far to the other side of the room.
You can have that on mini disc.
It would take a long time to dig out the 45.
Laser disc.
Laser disc.
I think Billy Ocean's greatest hits album is literally 2 songs. think.
Caribbean Queen is one of the most wonderful songs ever.
Oh, it's a good song.
Really good song. Then there's this one. Then there's
Get out of my when the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
the gets rough.
See,
Yeah.
there it is.
It was
There we go.
Yeah, there was a time where every station was just playing his.
Tom
music.
has disappeared. This is concerning.
Tom,
He's
well,
going to
looking for
find a Billy
Spotify.
Ocean album.
It's always a little concerning when Tom does.
It's no OMC's How Bizarre, but it's a fair song.
You know, he only had that really one hit.
But think about it. How bizarre.
How bizarre.
That's not bizarre at all. There's a lot of one hit
Do, do,
wonders.
do.
In fact, we
Do,
do
do,
shows
do.
about him.
Do.
I mean, there was Bobby McFerrin.
Well, he had that whistly song. I didn't like that one.
I was going to see if my complete collection of gold and platinum from Columbia House Records had Billy Ocean on it, but it doesn't.
Does it have Tina Turner?
It does have Bobby McFerrin though.
Oh, nice.
On this one.
Tom,
this is the best one though. This one's got Man Eater, Heat of the Moment, Every Breath You Take.
Oh my gosh, that's yacht rock.
Yeah. No, that's not yacht rock.
There's some yacht rock on there. I saw it.
Who's zooming who?
Aretha Franklin.
1985.
Take another look, tell me, baby.
Who's zooming who?
Is there any Oingo Boingo on there, Tom?
No, that's way too progressive for
Oh,
gold
okay.
and platinum.
Cool.
No.
Okay.
I think Danny Elfman went back through time and made sure that no reference to Oingo Boingo can ever be made again.
I'm going to be silenced now.
He does not like to talk about it, apparently.
It's a dead man's party for him.
Yeah, who could ask for more?
Oh, that was Oingo Boingo? I was like, I don't know what they sang.
Yeah, it's
The Dead
well,
Man's
see,
Party
it's
song.
interesting
That's
is
a weird
they were
one too.
They were so seminal in the '80s, and then like he became like big name.
Sarah, here's the thing. Cocaine.
Explains everything.
Cocaine. Right. Yes.
While
well,
composing
they get a Dead
songs.
Man's Party, I suppose.
Yeah.
Try hard enough. Is Oingo Boingo also the Mirror in the Bathroom people?
No.
Is that the same group or no?
Is it English Beat?
Yeah, that's English beat.
That's English beat.
Mirror in the bathroom, please don't please. Oh, okay.
In the bathroom, please.
I always thought the Dead Man's Party and the Mirror in the Bathroom were the same.
I have
The
an
same oeuvre.
I have an oddly specific knowledge of music from 1985 because when I turned 30 on my college radio show, I only played music from the year I was born for an entire year and only whole albums.
Whatever.
For a second there, I thought you were trying to say you were 30 in 1985.
No, but I just have this very expansive knowledge of only music from 1985.
Right.
That's
Got
a
it.
very odd thing.
At first,
It's
I was
very
like,
weird.
Rich looks amazing.
I know. Me too.
And then you're like, Rich
So
looks
much
real
older
bad.
than I thought he was.
Now it's
And
much
then we're
worse.
like, Rich, shut up, 30. Or whatever.
Sorry.
Born in
To be
85.
fair, I'm 32
Yeah.
now.
If I had to pull out the music from the year I was born, I mean, like, I'd be pulling out Gordon Lightfoot and a bunch of
No-
other
there's no
crappy
judgment.
Canadian-
There's
a lot
no
of
judgment.
crappy music.
As long as they had
I'm gonna
recorded
look
music
up,
back
like,
then, that was fine.
Top hits from my year without, exposing my year because it would be so hard to find on the internet. Top 40.
Mine are like Carpenters and I think number one on my birthday was The Long and Winding Road. And then like ABC by the Jackson 5.
All this
That's
music
easy,
from my
maybe.
year sucks.
I mean, a lot of the music from my year sucks too.
The Streak.
I'm not gonna lie.
Great.
A lot of the music from 1985 is not that great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff.
1970 is just one golden hit after another. It's
Well,
the
I got a
perfect
Grand
year of
Funk
music.
Railroad song. Oh, I Shot the Sheriff. That's good. Hooked on a Feeling.
The number one song of 1970 was Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, it's such a good one.
That's nothing wrong with that.
I like
Then
Garfunkel so much
here's
more
the
on that
top
song.
10. Close to You, The Carpenters. American Woman, The Guess Who. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, BJ Thomas. War, Edwin Starr. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
Parentheses. Absolutely.
Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Diana Ross. I'll Be There, the Jackson 5. Get Ready, Rare Earth. Let It Be, the Beatles. And Band of Gold, Frida Payne.
Like my years is just literally bookended by crap. I'm sorry. Like I you say I was born at the end of the year, right? So I was born at the end of November. So say I take the following year, I get The Hustle.
That's a great song.
Oh, I get Rhinestone Cowboy.
That's
It's a great Neil Diamond movie.
Like a rhinestone cow.
Captain Tennille's Love Will Keep Us Together.
I bet everybody's got, I've got
There's
like
some thinkers. There's some good stuff. Yeah.
Everything around me is AM gold, and even then, it's slightly tarnished. Does
But
gold tarnish? Killing Me Softly. Yeah, I like that song.
That's wait, that's from your year? Wow, I thought that was earlier.
No, it's from the year previous.
Yeah, okay.
Keep on trucking. Kodachrome. Like that song.
Oh, Kodachrome's good too. I just love Simon and Garfunkel.
Man, Elton John
Or I guess
cranked up
was
some
Kodachrome Simon and Garfunkel or Paul Simon?
It was both.
Kodachrome, I think, was just Paul Simon.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No.
That's what always gets me when people say like, oh, people listen to music on Spotify, the sound quality is just not there. I was like, people learn to love music less on AM radio. Like that sounds way better.
Right.
Like,
it's not as if we've had 5.1 surround sound.
Yeah,
so
I'm like, you're so precious. Back off.
Like people, there's maybe two generations.
1978, every single American had a high fidelity music system.
Yeah, from Sears, that was terrible.
or J.C. Penney's. I mean, they cranked
May Company, perhaps.
No, Realistic. I think there's an entire generation of Americans who've never heard the sound of static on their music. Like,
unless they're into like Noise Wall or something like that, where it's all static.
I think the real frustration is that even in the era of AM radio, you had FM radio and you had high fidelity systems. So if you were somebody who really wanted high quality music, you could get it. With MP3s, it's become harder to get digital high quality music.
Could Pono it up.
You got to Pono that.
Pono that.
Well, we also had quadraphonic in my
You could buy that $9 billion Sony Walkman from CES a couple years ago.
Cool, let's do it.
Had diamond encrusted knobs and stuff.
Delta Dawn. I don't remember this song.
What's that flower you have on? Could it be a faded rose from days gone
the 70s.
by?
The 70s soundtrack to me will always be laced with harmonica.
And if I may, cocaine.
Yeah.
But lots of harmonica for some reason. Like everything just had a harmonica in it.
But harmonica, not like the 40s, which was laced with harmonicae.
Harmonic.
By the way, Woody Guthrie music is going into public domain finally next year in the U.S.
What?
Yeah.
I'll sample that.
Well, because next year will be the first year that we'll have had songs go into public domain since they last extended the Copyright Act. So music from the 20s.
Ooh, Charleston. Flappers are making a comeback.
By the way, speaking of music that used to have harmonica in 1985, if you ever want to hear one of the best bad albums of 1985, I highly recommend Bob Dylan's Empire Burlesque. It's amazing. It's an act of genius.
That is also harmonicae.
That's terrible. It's like weird 80s Dylan. It's weird.
Fun fact, and this pains me to say it for a variety of reasons, but I am named after a Bob Dylan song called Sarah, but it's spelled without an H.
Oh,
interesting.
That's too bad. There's probably other Sarah songs.
It's a nice song.
Yeah, there's the Hall & Oates, isn't there?
Is there
That's Sarah Smile, also without an H.
And then there's
a couple of Sarah songs because somebody's kid was named Sarah, also without an H. Jefferson Airplane, also without an H.
Actually,
Wow.
that was Starship.
By that time, yeah, because they went from cool to like corporate.
Yeah, they're bad.
The space of 3 years.
We Built This City is a wonderful song. I don't care how corporate they were.
Oh.
We had a version for our radio station.
Good song.
That to me does not seem like a found civic infrastructure.
I just want Sarah to know I still think she's one of my favorite people on the internet, and I'm going to let that one go.
I'll fight you about Starship all day.
Space.
They not
When's
only
the last
went.
time you watched that video, by the way? Do yourself a favor.
I watched it 2 weeks ago because we were playing a bunch of music for my kid.
2 weeks ago.
It was.
See, Roger and I are the same way.
It's featured in that first Mannequin movie, and maybe that's what ruined it for me. I don't know.
It's it's also about San Francisco. You know, I was a kid, and exciting when they sing about your city.
Actually, I'm trying to think of all the pop songs that feature San Francisco, and I can only come up with a handful.
All the leaves are brown.
They should change it to "We built this city on ride sharing," and
we built this city on high rent. We built this city on
So this is the one weird thing about San Francisco because
the one.
Yeah, the
one, but one of many. But because of this,
what's the weird thing about San Francisco, Roger?
Well, no, like so the zoning laws, the zoning laws in the city are very restrictive on how you can build new homes and alter existing ones. So much so that if you actually pull up like a photo book from like the 1920s and 30s of San Francisco, you look out the Western Addition and out in the sunset. A lot of the houses look exactly the same, except you'll see a Model T in the driveway instead of like a Toyota Prius. And it's just weird.
The weirder ones are the ones from the 50s that have a Toyota Prius. And you're like, time traveler.
Wait, so We Built the City was featured in the Muppet movie?
Oh, yeah.
No.
I don't remember that.
Oh, Lunchman nailed it. We built this city on IPOs.
I think you would say ICO at this point.
Yeah. Keep it cutting edge.
See, movies. We built this city.
Roger, let's cut the stream for the day.
Cutting the stream. Thank you for watching. Nothing's going to stop us now. Jefferson, Starship, and Mannequin. All right. Bye.